Hey, this is Chris the Idaho Painter. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is one of many videos out of my new construction course. Everything you need to know about painting a new construction interior. If you want to see that course, it's over and available at paintlifesupply.com. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. We've got a lot more that you can see later on. All right, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the tapes that I use doing new construction. Now, these tapes I have sitting in front of me, these are tapes out in my trailer, and I have a wide variety of tapes from FrogTape that I use for different scenarios. And I'm going to talk about, the ones that I use most common in new construction. On this job, I've been testing out some tapes because I'm using a new product called Scuff Tough from Sherwin-Williams, and how is the tapes going to react to Scuff Tough and how is it going to stick to it? You eventually get accustomed to tapes that stick to certain paints better than other tapes, and I'm finding that on this job with the product Scuff Tough, there are tapes now designed specifically to adhere to low VOC paints and stuff. FrogTape has very high adhesion tape. This tape actually sticks pretty good to low VOC paints. I'm not dealing with that kind of stuff here in this new construction house, but this is a product from FrogTape that I have sitting here. I was going to show you 3-day release product. Release times, typically new construction, guys could be masking the windows off, trim off, spraying it, leaving it on for a week to 2 weeks depending on the size of the house. So you want tape that has a longer release time if you're using that method. Most of the time I like to take and remove my masking when everything's wet or at least the next day. But high adhesion tape sticks well to fences, concrete. Orange tape is a FrogTape production tape, a high adhesion, high tack production tape. This is the tape I use, just everyday tape, inside, outside of houses, everyday tape that I'd be using in new construction. And so I use it quite a bit. Typically this tape, the orange tape, doesn't have the polymer on the outside of the tape, which is the paint block technology, and it swells, doesn't allow paint underneath it, and so it performs it performs differently than say blue. The blue tape, you can see the polymer, it's a white dust on the outside, it swells when it gets wet, and so you'll get sharper lines, painted lines, if you're brushing and rolling up against it. New construction, we're spraying everything, and usually you don't get paint bleed underneath your tape when you're spraying because you're not forcing paint up against the tape. And so just a production tape typically performs very well around the entire house doing new construction. It's 3-day release. So if you're going to be leaving this on for more than 3 days, you wouldn't want to be using a production tape, which is, I would say it's more common that new construction guys leave their tape on for more than 3 days. I highly recommend, if you're not pulling your tape same day, to use a different product. I typically am going to decide to go into FrogTape Blue, professional grade painter's tape right here. That's what I've been using predominantly on this house right here. This is the major difference between this and the orange, besides price. This has got a longer release time. You're talking now a 14-day release, on this product. The tack is a little bit different. This doesn't stick as strong as this. So if you're having issues with your paint coming off and lifting off your freshly painted trim, you might want to side, towards the orange. But right here, it's been performing, pretty well on Scuff Top, as long as you run, your gloved hands over it right before you spray. Been using inch on a lot of stuff and 1.5 inches. I keep 2 sizes in my vehicles and no other sizes. I keep 1.5 inches and 2 inch. I've been using a lot of 1.5 inches. My maskers are always loaded with 1 inch. I do run around my my door jambs, do plastic with 1.5 inches. So you're going to see 1.5 inches. I tack down with the 1.5 inches too. I tack the sides of windows with 1.5 inches. Keep it with me on my Tough Gaff. These are the two I would predominantly be using in new construction. I would typically, side towards this, doing the typical standard scenarios where we spray pull, same day. I'd be using this to save money. I'm not worried about paint bleeding underneath the masking, because once again, when you spray, you typically do not have paint bleeding underneath the masking. It's usually not an issue. This is, if you're, for some reason, if if the floors are installed. Occasionally happens, you know, new construction. If floors are installed, you never want to, like hardwood floors. This is really designed for delicate surface flooring, hardwood floors, wallpaper, decorative finishes, FrogTape delicate surface tape. I keep that in there. Anytime I'm masking on a floor, that's going to be the tape I use. FrogTape green is pretty much my go-to interior and exterior tape when I'm doing repaints. I typically don't use it in new construction, but this is my favorite tape, you know, when I'm masking windows on exteriors, when I'm masking windows interiors, when I'm trying to get straight lines on a wall or rounded corners, or when we're masking door jambs. I use a lot of FrogTape green. It has a longer release time than the blue, 21-day release. So if your masking's on there for more than 14 days, you should probably go from blue to green, because that's got a longer release time. Now FrogTape has come up with something brand new, and it's a 28-day release tape, FrogTape Advanced, and it's premium washi tape. And it's a different paper than this version of green right here. The original green, this is a washi paper, a thinner paper, so it's not gonna leave as high or as large of a dam as this type of paper. The paper itself is great for contouring around like rounded contoured edges if you wanted to paint say a circle on a wall. So it conforms the curves and stuff a lot better than any of the other versions of FrogTape. It's 2 times stronger than this original FrogTape, and once again it has a 28-day release. Washi paper, so the paper on this tape, washi paper, is a really smooth premium paper, and one of the things I really like about it, other than it conforms to curves and stuff really nicely, it's super thin, super strong, durable. If you're doing painted lines, etc., you're not going to see the dam as much, especially if you got to paint over it and repaint over it. It's going to be easier to get rid of that dam. But the paper itself is smooth, so if you're masking really fast, running your fingers over the masking, you know, I've done it a lot of times in my career. I've burned my fingers running it over the masking, you know, so fast because I'm masking fast. You're less likely to do that with premium washi tape. So new product from FrogTape. I used it spraying the front door, you know, down there. Performed amazing. Nothing bled underneath it on the glass. The adhesive was super strong. So something you might want to give it a try. It's brand new. I've heard some really good feedback from guys using it already, you know, on job sites. So there's a little bit about the tape and the tapes I use in new construction, and some of it is just like trial and error, what works for you. A lot of it comes down to what paints you're using, what tapes stick to the paints you use. If you use FrogTape's line of tapes, they got something for everything. You can't go wrong. The end result, you're always going to look like a professional did it using FrogTape.